So obviously, it's an absolute pleasure as always to see you guys. Thank you very much for taking the time out of the busy schedule to do it. And then, so obviously, with the circumstances, obviously, we just wanted to have a look and just welcome everyone to Chasing the Puck. There we go. So obviously, just a little bit of live issues there. So we are back. Hopefully, you can hear me and see me, and I'm moving absolutely fine. So um, it's always good when Crean is just shouting, saying you don't look like you're moving or talking on the stream. So gremlins are in the system, so we just need to keep an eye on that. As always, the chat is open. So obviously, thank you for all the messages you send throughout the week. We've been inundated once again with so many messages in the mailbox to go through, really. And obviously, keep the chat alive throughout the next hour or so. It'd be greatly appreciated. And any questions, theories, or thoughts that you want to pose to us, we'll talk about them, discuss them here online with us now. So that'll be absolutely perfect. So without further ado, let's start with the first topic that everyone wanted me to talk about. And that's Fife. You know, we might have joked on the bingo card. We might have put it on the predictions on Saturday for them to beat the Storm. Once again, Storm fans, if you are listening, my apologies with relation to it. And then there we go. So having a look at that, we can just see that, you know, Fife on Saturday, with relation to it, we should be looking at that, you know, Fife did really, really well. And hopefully the fans really enjoyed it. I mean, the key focus that it's on there, first and foremost, that the team done really, really well. So what I'm just going to do is, obviously, I'm just going to restart it because due to some technical issues, some people said that the introduction was a little bit skipping and there was signal issues. So obviously, just checking the Wi-Fi. Just give us a heads up if everyone can hear me and it's clearly understandable. And the sound isn't skipping. We'll start again from scratch. Opening night, jitters. It's episode 20. It was going to eventually happen some way. So something must be different, that someone's done something to the Wi-Fi for us this particular week. So let's get cracking. 2 minutes 42. Soundbar, thank you very much. Welcome to Chasing the Puck, episode 20. We are here to talk about the hockey from the last 7 days. I hope your team had a really good weekend and had enjoyable results wherever you are. And if they didn't, there's always next week, or there's always this week ahead. So obviously, thank you very much for taking the time to send in your questions over the last couple of days. We've been inundated with a lot of questions that have been sent our way. And then, you know, let's go through them. Let's go through all the talking points and everything that's been kind of going through the last couple of days. So without further ado, first question that everyone really wanted me to discuss and really ask was going about the result for Fife on Sunday. And, you know, looking at it, it's an absolutely massive achievement for them. You know, this isn't to belittle them. This isn't to make people feel like they're absolutely in such a dire situation where, you know, you look at it and you think, you know, it's not the great amount of points. You know, we're not posting on social media to make light of the plight that is going on for that team. You know, they played on Saturday against Storm and they beat Clan on penalty shots on Sunday. They got 2 points. And, you know, it's not against Clan. It's not against any team, really. Is at this moment in time, if Fife win, all the focus and all the energy that I will put in is for those players, for those fans, for the staff on and off the ice, and everyone that, you know, I've been very fortunate to speak to this season, especially going up to Kirkcaldy and experiencing, you know, the staff, the volunteers, the people that work in there day in, day out to keep the Flyers going and support their community and support that rink and support everything. So if you want me to be honest, I'm absolutely made up for them. This is me. I'm absolutely made up for them to be a team that, you know, got the points. And this is, you know, someone posted to me today and said, Stars, they're 28 points behind and there's 28 points left to play for Fife. The comeback is on. Everyone knows, obviously, in the circumstances that, Fife, I probably just want to get to the end of the season, keep everyone healthy, fulfill their fixtures for their fans, for the players, for the staff, and everyone involved. And if I'm honest, it was a really good feeling for them to be playing to such a degree to get the win. I mean, you look at the game, sod's law. I do my predictions as I do. Saturday, my apologies to the Storm fans that kind of threw them under the bus again, because obviously they lost to Flyers last time they went to Altrincham. And then, of course, in the circumstances more than anything, to go against Clan, Clan had a few players missing, swap around with Bowen to Brine. But you look at Clan's performances this season, they probably had enough in the locker to get a win and a convincing win. And, early parts of the season, the numbers that they scored while they're in Bray Head. So for the team to actually do that and put themselves in a position where, it's a lottery. You go to penalty shots, it's luck of the draw, who gets that early pressure and that mountain in. But they had chances in overtime as well. And you could see it. You could see it. The videos that were posted from the fans, the league after the game. You could hear the commentary with Laura as well, and everything that came through. It's it's not just me. Please, obviously, no one look at this in the circumstances and think this is pro Fife. I know Faye says that chasing the puck is pro Fife, and is always talking about the Fife Flyers, but I've been accused of a lot of things in my time. That's probably a new one for me. But they were really kind and courteous, Fife, when we went over. And this season, I'll be honest with you. If it was Dundee in the same plight, we'd do exactly the same thing. If it was Belfast, same thing. If it was Steelers, same thing. If it was Panthers, same thing. And if it was a National League team, like a Solway or a Steel Dogs or Pitbulls, whoever it may be, whatever division, if they're unstuck and they need help, and we could do anything to obviously make it feel better for them. That's the thing with social media. So many people can criticize and feel down in the dumps and be such in a negative situation. But a little bit of an uplift, if anything like that, is me. I'm not going to change the world. I never will. Being in circumstances that we can do that way is that, we can have light-hearted humour if a team gets beaten. We can get, instances, the funny moments of someone falling over their stick breaking at the most inappropriate moment. But this is people's livelihoods. This is people's careers and jobs and passion. And if you're honest, I'm absolutely made up for them. I'm truly am, Will they get many more wins between now and the end of the season? Who really knows? But credit where credit's due. They brought themselves into such a position where they've got the win. There's probably a feel-good factor. I would love to see how the reaction was with the players and the fans the night. And it's the little things like that. And, they played well. Looked like it was an interesting game against Storm on the Saturday. Yes, I predicted the wrong result again. Of course I did. But, that's the thing, is that you want to see these teams playing really, really well and be in such a position where, you want it to be competitive. I've said this. We said this in the previous episode. If you've not catched it, listen to it again, where we kind of followed up about the ownership and where they will be next season and the equipment sales and everything. I saw the players, fans, coaching staff at the Wednesday when they came up to Sheffield, and speaking to everyone and seeing how their spirits were and how they presented themselves and how they played, being short benched consistently. If you're at work and you're doing your job and you're short of staff, and there's if it's retail, if it's customer service, if it's phone calls, if you haven't got enough people to cover that demand, people get sick, people get injured, and people get all sorts. Obviously, I know hockey's a very different realm with working 9 to 5. Please, obviously, first and foremost, I understand that, but it's a tough one for them, and it absolutely is. So credit where credit's due. They got the win. Clan fans gave us the meltdown on the bingo card, which, to be fair, you kind of thought was going to happen as soon as that kind of thing happened. So you can have a look at it that way and then do it. But going forward, they've got some very tough games. They want to fulfill the fixtures. If they can get some more points along the line, if it buoys them up, training's going to be great for them this week where they've got that win, they've got the points. And if they get more players in the building back, fully fit, playing, and, they can start making some noises. We've said, obviously, the playoffs is probably a step too far for them now, but, getting the points that they need. But they want to put on a show, make the team proud, and make the town proud, and make the organisation proud. And I think every single person who's in that building right now has the opportunity to do that. And, Five fans, depending on, the numbers, saw them go to Altrincham. There's ones in Sheffield, there was in Nottingham. There's so many that make the trip regardless, that pay their money and bring support to a team that is fully needing that support. And, that's my thoughts really on it. Five, congratulations. The fact that it was league-wide, probably not in Glasgow, but majority of other areas within the league and fan bases and everything like that was a very big, proud occasion for it. But what can you do? I mean, if any other team was in that circumstance, in that situation, there's nothing more that you can really do in those circumstances except, regroup, reset, see what happens going forward. And, team-wise, we'll see what the announcements are as the weeks and months come along for them, what their next stage is, what they're going to do next. But right now, fully on board for them. Congratulations, them winning on Sunday. So let's have a look at the questions that got thrown in. There's probably a bit that I probably need to say is when we're asking people for hockey questions, I should say very clearly it's hockey questions, because the sort of questions I got was, how old do you think Joanna Lumley is? I should have Googled it before I read the question out, because I knew it was already there. But hockey questions, yeah, send your hockey questions in. General stuff like that is probably not ones that I'll answer. I'll give it a good go in the circumstances. But yeah, the Google form is for hockey questions for the hockey show. I don't know how old Joanna Lumley is. I bet you didn't have that on the bingo card. That I was going to say Joanna Lumley and how old she is. But, every day's a school day. So looking at that, obviously, let's go through some of the other ideas that people wanted to throw through. Let's have a look. So question-wise, okay, so this is a good one for the question. So, are you a Panthers or Steelers fan? We believe that you're a Panthers fan, but there is huge hype over the Orange with it being a rivalry. Which side are you on? It's not always clear. So, if you don't know who I am, I'm Stephen. I live in Nottingham, so I live in Arnold. Karina is my wife-to-be, fiance, who supports the Sheffield Steelers, who has a car that is very kind and convertingly to take me to said games when we need to go. And I want to spend time with my wife. Why wouldn't I want to spend time with her? If we're honest, as me, I have to cover every single team. I have to cover the Lions, Billingham Stars, Solway Sharks, Dundee Rockets, Panthers, Steelers, whoever it is. I will post about any single team. But people have to remember I'm only one person. So if you take in consideration, let's pose this in with another question, is 9 times out of 10, the majority of the time I will be at Sheffield, because that's where I will be. If I'm not in Sheffield, I would be then in Nottingham. You've got to remember, obviously, if you look at the prices of a podcast, it's free, so that's absolutely fine. Perfect. When you're taking stream into consideration, £15 a pop, there's only one of me. Really, I can't watch 5 streams if I'm just going to follow the Elite League. I'm not going to be able to cover the 6-7 games in all the different leagues. And of course, I know some of them offer a YouTube package where they can, they're free, which is absolutely fine. But, travel, I was looking at the Challenge Cup today, looked at it in Belfast, looked at it in Cardiff to cover whatever final, wherever that tends to be. that's a position where, that's, if I'm going to go to Belfast from Nottingham, that's nearly 120 quid just on flights before a hotel, before food accommodation. Weirdly, going to Cardiff on a National Express coach was £15 from Nottingham, so that's not too bad. But it's the cost. That's the thing is I would absolutely love to cover every single team in UK ice hockey. That's why we always ask people to send their photos, their videos in, write articles for us, opinion pieces. I'm only the hand that I can only deal with and is dealt with watching that particular facet of hockey, which is obviously in that local area for me. Same if obviously the next port call would be Lions, because Lions are just down the road from me. Obviously, if I can't go to a Steelers game, then I can go to Steel Dogs, I can go to Leeds Knights, I can go to Hull, I can go lots of places, really. But obviously, it's affordability of cost. Working a 9 to 5 job as well, I can only do so much within the hockey realm. So that's why it's always kind of based within that time frame of being in Sheffield, in Nottingham, if obviously they're the two core places, because I don't drive. If someone was happy to pick me up on a road trip to go to Altrincham, Coventry, wherever it needed to be, then I'd film footage there. But obviously, chasing the puck is for everyone. So whoever you support, whatever you want to do, if you want your footage out there, tag us, we'll retweet it. If you want to send it us, we'll send it with your name on it, say that you've sent it in. Obviously, Hockey Fights is the best place to send a fight, but if you want to send it to someone else, send it over to us. So probably doesn't answer the question, but at the end of the day, I work in the social media platform, so I can't really support a team. I just have to be in the situation of be opinionated, be fair, and I will watch as many hockey games as I can possibly can. I'm a person of two worlds. With my family, the way it is, means that obviously I will be in Sheffield and Nottingham for the foreseeable. Absolutely. But yeah, which kind of leads me into the question, the big one really was, that obviously not where do my loyalties lie, but is the Steelers and Panthers rivalry back? I mean, without taking too much of a touching point of what's happened over time, which obviously I don't want to discuss, because, it's a conversation that you don't really want to mention, if I'm honest. And I don't want to really bring that up. But from two teams facing each other kind of point of view, is, Steelers have had Panthers number, 21 in 1? Before the games, the streak finally got ended. And Steelers lost a game to the Panthers. I mean, that was probably the caveat of people saying that it wasn't much of a rivalry, because, honestly, you kind of put yourself in a position there where you've kind of thought they aren't really doing it there. And it's just a foregone conclusion, really, more than anything, where Steelers have just won. They've won convincingly, and they've been in the ascendancy within trophies and being there or thereabouts, top of the table. So for Panthers to, the performance, big attendance from the Nottingham faithful to come to Sheffield on Saturday. The noise that they were taking when they managed to get the 2-goal lead. It felt like how it used to be, the backwards and forwards, the banter, the fact that some people are allowed to make noise in that arena. Obviously, if you saw the posts with people talking about fans telling other fans to be quiet, what's up with that? If I'm honest, you go to play good money to go and watch the hockey. You want an atmosphere, you want it enjoyable. It's not a library. In certain cut jokes that people are going to say there with relation to that, but it's one of those things really where you pay money. It's like when you go to a concert. I went to a concert recently and I had people behind me singing badly out of tune for the entire night of songs that I paid good money to listen to professional singers sing to me, and I didn't really want to hear them absolutely desecrate a certain song that I wanted to listen to, and then of course there's people who record stuff all the way through end to end completely, and then there's other people that are in the moment. A lot of people have different caveats of how they want to enjoy music and how they go to a show. And that's the same with hockey, really, more than, first and foremost, more than anything, because if you go to the hockey, some people might want to sit there and just soak it all in. Other people want to shout, either in a good way or a bad way. You never know, obviously, how that kind of works with people, but who really knows? But from the game point of view, it was good to see, the old backwards and forwards, the fans fully into it, fully getting it up, every save, every miss, every shot, every off the puck incidents, every penalty just being met with a certain ingrained hatred for both sides, not in such a degree that it used to be. Of course, that's not kind of where it is now, but that old feeling of, bragging rights absolutely needs to be won. Steelers fans felt it, Panthers fans felt it, and it was a weird game. You look at it, you look at the stats. You know, Steelers could have easily won that by a high margin. But credit to Jason Grande, the defensive from Panthers, they played the perfect game for the most part, and then took them to overtime and took them to penalties. And this, going into that game, there wasn't a clear favourite. There wasn't that old position where it was just like a foregone conclusion. Fans are like, oh, I'm dreading this game. I don't know who's going to win. I don't know. There wasn't that ascendancy for both teams, really. You look at the performance that Steelers had against Belfast the weekend before. And obviously Panthers against Guildford as well. It was just obviously it's a very chop and change, different circumstances. And, both teams, it's always said, form goes out the window when it's a rivalry game, be that, Liverpool, Manchester United and, different sports or anything like that. You could always look at it as Belfast and Devils, people obviously with form, it's just who's better on the day and who can live into that moment. But, I say, with the second goal, especially with Panthers, that, Steelers almost scored. Grande made a really great save and then they're up the other end and then they make it 2-0. It's all about inches. Inches are very important where, being in a situation where if something doesn't quite hit before, you'd be in a position where you could kind of take that by the wayside. But teams are punishing right now. And that's the thing, is the confidence in Nottingham now is that, regardless if it's at the Utilita, if it's at the Motorpoint Arena, there is a situation more than anything where they would certainly be a situation where they look at it and go, okay, well, this is pretty even. And, I don't know how the Steelers fan felt for the majority of the game for having been 2 goals down and then get into that edge of not desperation, but, that needing to actually pick up a point, because that's the thing with the Friday game between Belfast and Cardiff, there's always that background feeling and you don't really know if they know exactly what the results are on Saturday, but they needed to keep winning. They need to put themselves in a position that they needed to be that team to gather the points. And same with the Panthers, obviously with the thoughts of where they're there or thereabouts, that if any team makes a mistake, you want to be fully able and fully operating at the highest possible level to take advantage of that. Because that's the thing is, the amount of games that are actually left and the points that are in between these teams is if anyone has injuries or takes a slide, Jackson Whistle's been immense the last couple of games. And he's been obviously deputised with Dixon being backup. But, obviously, if anything happens there, then it just opens up circumstances where what can they do going forward? And, if they start dropping points, being that team, being that Steelers team, being that Panthers team, or being that Devils team to a lesser extent with the performances recently and the points picked up, is that you want to take full advantage. But, from a sport point of view, people converse with me and say, how can we grow the sport and how can we bring the sport back to where it used to be, and I don't know if that means, e.g. being on Sky Sports or, attendance is the best ones that they have been for the longest time. But you're kind of looking at it in a circumstances where you think to them and go, well, being in the circumstances with relation to that, big games like that are going to make a very big difference. Everyone saw the attendances. Everyone saw, the feeling that, from the two fan bases after the game, during the game. And of course, not getting around it, if anyone saw on the social media channels of the instances within the crowd and the crowd behavior, is that, you don't clearly want to see that. You don't want people to be that either intoxicated or reacting in such a way when it's a hockey game. It's only a hockey game. Of course, that's what people always say. But, hearing different sides, well, oh, Steelers fans started it, Panthers fans started it, security did this, security did that. A lot of hearsay and conjectural side of things of that nature. And, it's not the things that you want to see. You want to talk about the hard hitting action on the ice. And, this is where it kind of comes in, is a person who is neutral, who can go to these games and record just as a person who really just wants to watch the hockey and enjoy the hockey. I got goosebumps, in the nicest way. Both sides absolutely just held to leather, playing to the best of their ability, seeing, off the puck action. Valley was, a constant backwards and forwards with anyone within the Panthers and riling them up, riling each other up. It was great. And, Dowdy, some of the comments of the videos that I posted about Dowdy, on a night where he gets his special jersey to, celebrate his 357 goal for Nottingham, which obviously is still a great achievement, against Team Nottingham for Sheffield. You kind of look at it and you think, well, that's amazing. But, this whole thing, he's not an enforcer, he's not this, he's not that. Some really hot takes that we got on our social media channels about Robert Dowd over the weekend, the last couple of days. But it's moments like that, I've said this and I've said this plenty of times, a captain of that magnitude and that attitude who can score your goals, can assist, but can totally be there and fully embracive of the mentality that everybody wants to have. It's a testament to his ability, and you've got people all around the ice that can do that. Is that, from Nottingham, Sam Hare's there, Ollie Betteridge now being obviously the 8th highest attendant appearances for the Panthers. You've got players that are coming in, Reece Kelly's done absolutely amazing since he's come in. Greenfield, absolutely amazing. Jason Grande, someone posed the question on social media earlier today. I'm really sorry if I've obviously stolen a march on that one. But the question is, what can Panthers keep both of them? Ryan Bednard and Grande for next season. Hooterman is there as well. You've got Lucas Sheldon with his podcast that's out today as well. And, there's such in and out, but that feeling again of seeing two fan bases, two teams just going for it and making it one of probably the most exciting games. This is the thing, is that you take that game, whatever highlights you've got, it's one of those games that you want to really show people again. Same with Belfast versus Devils over the weekend, is that this is the thing, is that if they could pick a game, just one a week, just say to people, okay, 3-4 days later, this is the highlight of the week, or this is the game that, is the most talked about, that we can actually get people to put either at a reduced cost, put it on YouTube. The thing is that if from a resale value, most people have seen the highlights, most people have seen the clips that have happened. So on a Wednesday night, just there's no games on, for example. Of course, there is games this week. There's 2 of them. But, just for an example, just throw that game on and just say, here you go, watch it. See what you feel. Watch it. If we get a couple of 100 views on it, perfect. And then the next time that people think, actually, there's some hockey on, should we go and watch it? Oh, yeah, I watched it on YouTube, the full game for free, and think it's that. And it's a tough one because obviously, people are on the day that the stream is available, you can purchase it and then you can watch it again. It's on that on-demand kind of service that's there, really, because you paid for it. It's absolutely fine to have it. But if there's an extended highlights package, but then that comes the old caveat of, people have to chop it and change it. People have to re-record it, and it's taking time and energy away, especially when they don't need to. But if obviously it's a stream and it's live and there's nothing that needs to be taken out and it's just been recorded, it's just going to sit there. I feel like that one is the big one that you can do, is that it's just, information's going to sit here. So this is my thought process. So very long time ago, I got out of hockey. I watched it. I missed the golden years, as some people might say, depending on circumstances. But you know, Karina tells me about things that happened while I was away, and I look at her like she's talking gobbledygook. If I'm honest, do that quite a lot. Don't worry, so it's fine. But there's bits that you don't know. There's certain things that have happened in the social media. There's certain aspects there, certain games. You look at with Belfast bringing back people back for Kiefer's time. That's a time that I can't really remember. So when you see these names coming back, there's footage out there that people have VHSs. If you know what VHS is, you're old like me, but there's DVDs as well. And that's one thing that I've always been passionate about, is that we've got all this archival footage. I mean, look at it, 6-0 between Belfast and Devils. I wasn't at the game. I would love to watch that game, analyze it in depth. Thing is that obviously I know some teams have a reduced rate where you can buy the games later on a date and say that it's still actively available. But I'd love to know if, how many people actually go from the first 24, 48 hours after buying a stream that they get any follow-up conversation with people absolutely wanting to purchase it. Because that's the thing, is if it's a Monday afternoon, I'm thinking, I really fancy watching Belfast versus Devils, and I didn't buy it on the Saturday, is, you can watch the highlights. Of course, the highlights are going to be little bits here and there, but you're not going to get a full depth of the game. But I would happily do that. If it was on there, just one a month, one a team, literally. Pick your poison. One team just does it and says, okay, we'll give you the free game 3 days later that you can watch in full. More people would watch it. Might not work. This is the thing. Might not be financially feasible. Might not be in a position to say why, if we're selling it for a fiver, we'll take the fiver as opposed to an extra couple of people watching it on YouTube. Absolutely fine. No skin in the game in relation to this, because I don't obviously get any financial implication. I don't know fully the aspect of how that would work. But the majority of a game that is going to be watched is, I've been here and Queen has impulsively said, I want to buy a stream. I want to buy the Storm stream because I want to watch Storm versus Steelers. Yeah. But she wants to watch the team. Of course she does. Not saying a word. But that's the thing, is you pay the money. You pay the 15, 16 quid, you watch the game, and then, regardless of what happens, depending the circumstances, if it's a 1-0 game and it's a deflected shot and then nothing happens, no fighting, no drama, no nothing, you paid 15, 16 quid. Are you ever going to watch it again? Of course, then the caveat is, who's going to watch it free when they know the result and if it's not an entertaining game. But there's got to be some games in there that, someone's got in the archival footage that somewhere you would look at it and think, okay, well, let's just put it on there. Put it on there. Free to view. Boom. And see where it goes. Start putting more games on there. The Elite League channel. Put the highlights on there so you can watch it. Quick on the move, on the go. But then do it that way. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But then it takes away people saying, well, let's get the TV deal. Let's get anything like that. Because it isn't going to happen anytime soon. But it's that little give and take situation of, here's your finances. Here's the money that you get in. What's your percentage of people resale value? Are you getting people making purchases on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday of those games that have already been recorded? What can we do about it to obviously maximise people's viewing figures with it? If they can do it, great. Nottingham had it with Notts TV for a while, where the full game highlight packages were just put to Notts TV, but Notts TV is closing now. So you're kind of there. There must be somewhere, some happy medium that you can do it. Went on a little bit of a tangent there, but, fair enough. But yeah, really great game. I think the rivalry's back. I think it's what everyone wanted. There's those kind of little mini histories now. There's that, I've said that, Giants versus Steelers have been great games this season. The fans make the trip up, how they do to go to Sheffield from Belfast. Thing is, Belfast as well, when they've been playing Nottingham, there's so many little stories and so many integral things now, especially with teams like Guildford picking up points, Coventry picking up points, is that there is a lot more happening within those games that are more meaningful. And this is the thing now, is that you look at certain games and they're not dead rubbers. They're not in a position where nothing's happening is that these are teams that are fighting amongst themselves to get in the best position financially now for the playoffs and start looking to get the players in. Because, look at Reece Kelly coming in mid-season for Steelers. That's a Brit there. That's the commodity that people want to get. If that's where they're doing it now, getting him in place and processing. But then, of course, there's the factors as, Dundee's got Ben O'Connor. Lewis Hook's got the deal that he's got with Guildford for a prolonged period of time. You've got Tetlow, Kelso, Betteridge, Mosey being there as well. Of course, he's an import, but, like Duggan, Richardson as well, Ben Bounds. You can go through the different amount of Brit players that are so valuable for the way that people want to play with the imports and having the right numbers to process. That, a lot of teams are making that decision and that fight now to get people in place because, imports, everyone's starting to look at next season already, kind of get a feeling what they need and get on the ball rolling first. But, imports, there's so many different factors of what, someone gets a good deal here, some people get a good deal there. Are they actually going to be possible for them to get those players in? But Brits, it's, of course, if you don't get your Brits in right and you don't have the right number of Brits, you're going to be short benched every night and the quality's not going to be there. And you're going to look at what kind of players you're bringing in. But once that's in place, I think this is where a lot of it's going to do is some point, people have their favourites that are there for a prolonged period of time. But now teams are fighting each other to obviously be in the best possible position. Because if you think, obviously, if you're going to Sheffield and you're going to Nottingham, Coventry as well, Belfast and Cardiff. So they've got players that, people are going to say that they're there or thereabouts. Storm had that really great season the previous year where they finished in the top 4. Now they're obviously just, near the bottom, just trying to get the performance that they are. But that recruitment side of things is that you've had a great season, you take that bounce back of getting people in, new coach comes in with new ideas, new situations, and it's what they can actually do to recruit. Because that's the thing is that if they've not got something in mind, what they need to bring in, what identity they need to do is because Panthers had this for the longest time where they were just constantly chopping and changing managers where, someone would come in and they're just like a Brit that's just there for the sake of being there. Clark Pizzo didn't get a lot of ice time. Zane McKenzie didn't get it. And, Jack Hopkins didn't get it. And Archie Hazelden didn't get much of it now. And look at them all doing amazingly well in different avenues within the sport that they've gone to, different teams, especially with being at Blaze, and they're getting their time and that opportunity now to play and showcase their abilities. Clark Pizzo being at Steel Dogs as well, so I don't miss them out, but they're playing, they're happy, they're doing as well as they can. Sean Norris being at Giants, going over to Guildford and now being at MK, is there's so many different journeys and so many different ways that Brits can go and be appreciated and be either the top dog in that league, but getting minutes, because that is always the concern, is that they're there for ticking a box, but if they don't play, then they're going to get annoyed and upset and not be able to. So they need to find the right opportunity and be in the best possible place that they can be, which is, where you want it to be. So let's have a look at the questions again. So question is, what is Steelers' obsession with Scott Conway? If you're someone who is like me, who loves a bit of panto, is everyone needs a panto villain. That's the way I have to look at it is, this year Tansy has been the panto villain for people that are from Belfast. Conway has been the panto villain that's there. You've had previous people. There's just always been someone that's been the villain for a team. You could just name so many different people that you just hated playing against because it was either score a goal past you or you do something in a game. And characters like that, the backwards and forwards about posting, what's the score update, and then Tansy to come back and say, what's the score update, posting so-and-so, guess who's in the building and stuff like that. It's, if you're going to sell tickets in a certain way, I think it works in such a really interesting, because, the tangent is, the key fundamental of selling a ticket is that you're top of the league team playing the team that is below you. That is obviously a big sell. Belfast know, when it was the chase. Obviously, we've had the chase thought process. This is the chance to get back the points in Belfast case. It's all trying to sell it in a certain way, and characters like that is, before the season, it was like, oh, he was going to come to Sheffield, he was going to do this, he's back. Stuff they said about the refs, saying that people are ugly or stupid. Then, interesting facts, obviously, that people said that, every time he's posted something on social media, he's been absent from the games in Sheffield, that some people don't know that he's in the building and playing a game. He's not scored and not made a dramatic effect during those games. But when you're trying to sell something, especially, I know people were saying about the Panthers versus Steelers games that there was a lot of posts. I think I don't know if there was many posts from the Sheffield side say that they were playing Panthers. But this is how you sell tickets. The thing is that you're in a very interesting place where you look at Premier League football or anything like that, and I'm not obviously comparing prices or cost of players or anything like that. But, to get a sellout in the Elite League is a tremendous achievement for both home and away, with travel and the cost of living that people have got. So to get them, but you've got to squeeze every inch of anything. And if there is, this is the thing, is if there's a game that happens, there's some drama. I mean, look at Fife versus Belfast. Is the onus of that game, if you were going to sell that game again after what's happened previously, is you would sell Jackson Whistle versus Veris goalie fight. That's the thing, is you look at moments, you look at instances that have happened in games previously to sell the product. That's where you would have to be, and in the nicest way, if someone is going to give you free advertisement as a player and then be in a situation as a team, that's the thing, is if the fully focus is on one particular player, then the team, I'd be a person in that team and say, what about me? I'm going to prove to you that obviously I can, I'm that person, and put yourself in an interesting situation there where when you're trying to sell stuff, I mean, that's the thing, is if Panthers played Steelers and it was on the anniversary of the bench clearance, please honestly tell me, would both teams not use that as a factor, as a selling factor? It's obviously never going to happen again to that level that it did back in 2001. God, I feel old then. Sorry. Yeah, that's me old again. Flashbacks. But yeah, you look at it and you go, everything's got a little bit of a selling point. And, if Scott Gunway is going to come in and say little comments or anything like that, Dan's going to say it and Steelers are going to say that, it's an interesting factor because that's how they're selling it as well. Stuff like that. And if, in a nice way, Conway's giving free publicity to the Steelers and, fans hate him. From the gather that you can see that everything that he does, it's an interesting one. I did obviously post about, the fans, how they would react to him. And, you see it in the crowd sometimes, of course, Belfast fans cheering him the entire time, but he reveled in it. He loved, being that kind of villain that, people were swearing at, sticking fingers at, shouting abuse at. And it kind of just sells it. It's a lot of fun and very, very enjoyable. But, I don't know. I don't think anyone has an obsessive compulsive order. I don't think Conway's obsessed by Steelers, and I don't think Steelers are obsessed by Conway. Personally, I just feel like, they've kind of got a clever idea of making it sell for both particular sides. And if it does great for him and it does great for Steelers that's there, but other teams do it as well. If I'm honest, probably not to the same degree. Yeah, I'll be fair to say that in the circumstances, but there's always got to be a villain. There's always got to be a hero. So it's always fun to see. So other questions that are on the board. So thank you, obviously, everyone who sends questions in. Try and get through them all. Absolutely fine. So what makes a true fan? So this was a tough question, try and square that circle with it, is that there's just so many different factors. I get, obviously, the conversation that is there about, there is so many people that I know that, through thick and thin, travel, miles upon miles to watch their team home and away. I think there's a few that are listening on the podcast now. So that's the thing, is especially with the rink tour, going to places. I've not been to Guildford this year. I've not been to Belfast this year. Not been to Cardiff this year, and it's tough. There's not a loyalty scheme with, if someone's got a season ticket, if someone purchases just a seat when they can afford it, if they can go to the games on the coach travel, if they make the trips there, if they buy the stream, if they go to, the game, if it's been shown at a pub or a restaurant, like Blind Rabbit, like Panthers fans do. There's just so many caveats, really, is that, you might have one jersey, you might have 27, you might have a shirt off your back, you might have none. We're in a sport where there isn't a tier system. There shouldn't be. Everyone is entitled to support their team however they like, however they want to be. If they could stop buying the 50-50 tickets and the shirt off the back tickets when I'm at a game so I can win, that would be very kind of them. But obviously that's never going to happen. But, it's one of those things is that, there's no, the all-in that Panthers have, traveling away, a lot of people have supporters, coaches, whatever variations that they do, the trips and the time, the effort it takes is, I remember a couple of years ago where watched every game, went to every away game, but life isn't like that. I didn't see the next fan that just come and asked about the rules as any differently to myself. I just thought I was silly that I spent so much money compared to them. But, it's one of those things really, you don't need to have in the know knowledge, everything that needs to be there. You don't need to know a player's, middle name, what school they went to, their best friend, their girlfriend's name, anything like that. That's the thing is that, you don't have to have a tattoo with your team on it. You can do all these things you can do. Absolutely fine. But, if someone comes to talk to me about hockey, I'll sit there and listen. If they've been watching it 20 years, 2 years, 2 minutes, I'll spend a lot of time to talk to those people because, we're all in a secret club. It's not like Fight Club, but we're all in it together, in the nicest way. We've all chosen to be our lives consumed by a support teams in a league that, most people don't know that it is a sport in the UK. It's growing indoor sport and there's a lot more attendances that there has in the last couple of years. But we still find it that people look at me a little bit weird when I start talking about hockey, but that might be a different conversation. But, some people definitely don't really know about the sport. So, let's have our banter, let's have our disagreements about which team we support, instances, refereeing decisions, goals being disallowed, and everything in between. But for me, there's no tiers when it comes to a true fan or not. Everyone who puts their money in, enjoys the sport, in my book, fully deserves to be there. And if you're a new fan, please don't be afraid. When you say it's offside or penalty or shoot the ball into the net, we all get there. We all learn. It just takes us a wee bit of time. And obviously, I've never said put the ball in the net. I promise. So next question is, can 5 push on and get 20 points? Kind of covered it a little bit. Would be nice, but I'm sure there's a lot more of the other 9 teams that will be fully against that and try and not do it. Obviously, the caveat is that, Stars would have to lose every single game between now and the end of the season. My predictions are bad, but even there, I think obviously I'm safe to say that they should be okay. But as many points that 5 can get, they're good for it, It would be interesting if all the stuff that's happened, if they have some say in the title race where the races should be going to and where the titles should be going to in the league by performances that they need to do. But time will come. We'll see. So fan bases forgetting it's a family game and actual abuse between fans at games is not okay. So cover that a little bit there. Absolutely right. You go to a game, you want to have fun, it's excitable. I covered it about, fans making noise and chanting and cheering. You can sit there. One of the biggest caveats is that you can sit there with alcohol, especially with the game on Saturday between Panthers and Steelers. There's not a lot of new fans that were drinking quite a bit, and stewards had a lot to deal with people getting up and down off the seats during play. I felt bad for the official steward that was near me because I just felt like he constantly was just fighting a losing battle. And the stuff that people were saying to them and saying around families and stuff like that, and effing and jeffing and stuff like that. I don't swear. Mainly, I don't swear because my mum is Scottish, and even now at 37 ish, she would put a bar of soap in my mouth if I proceeded to swear in front of her. So I don't do it. But in the heat of the moment, you sport, you say certain things. I get it. Obviously, if you've got kids around you, the last thing you want them to do is pick up certain words or anything like that. But we're in a sport environment, there is that passion, that is that feeling of anything that happens. You want to cheer on your team. Official makes a decision that you're not happy with. You can sit there and cross your arms and just go, I'm not happy. Or certain people will say some French words or some unsavory things. But yeah, it's not something that we can police in the sense the way, it's common decency with, if anything's said that's obviously completely, within the rules of the arena and in good decency, of course, report them to stewards or anything like that. But it's a tough one to do it, is that people are fully invested emotionally into a sport, and if their team loses and they feel like that something's happening and they're unhappy about it, it's not ideal. But fans as well, fighting amongst themselves, saying certain things, it's not on really, especially with everything that's gone on the last couple of years, and not just in UK hockey but in sports, with tragedy chanting and all sorts that's happened really. Of the things that we want to be known for this sport, and as we're trying to grow it and try and build it, there's just certain aspects and certain factors really where we don't really need to be looking at certain things that are easily manageable and contained. People go on Twitter and say, go on a meltdown and ranting and rent free, stay classy and fishing and stuff like that. But we've never really had that really balls to the walls kind of people just going after people. And I hope that stays the same, because the last thing you want to do is the enjoyment being spoilt by people to put themselves in such a bad position. But what can you do? So next question, celebrity ages. See, again, send us questions, absolutely fine. I'm not going to go through celebrity ages of how old I think celebrities are. That's a different podcast. If you want me to do it at some point, we can do the special Chasing the Puck episode where we talk about celebrity ages. But thank you whoever sent that question. I don't know how to answer that one. There we go. So Panthers return of where they should be given the past few seasons and why that is. I'm coming from a perspective that, a lot of people beginning of the season, lost Steelers at Ice Sheffield, performances weren't great against Cardiff, the Aladdin Cup, the Gary Moran Cup, that people were already calling for head for certain players and coaches and saying that they were unhappy with the appointments, the players that were being brought in. You watch them, offensively, they're scoring, defensively, Grande's performances, but they're well drilled and well versed that, if Grande does flap a shot and he doesn't pick it first time, that they are covering up straight away to make sure that anything that is coming his way is stopped, and they get the puck away quickly. They play fast, they play hard, credit where credit's due. There's not been many fights at the Panthers game. So that's another reason why I've not been at Panthers game, because there's not been many fights. I can't get many fight videos to get content. So there we go. That's another reason for anyone who missed the question earlier about why I'm not at many more Nottingham games recently. So that's fine. We'll go with that. But, they played really, really well. They've obviously the budget that they've brought in, the players. And this is the thing. They brought players in that have been good, that they could probably bring back now that would fit into this team so well. They've got a system. Danny Stewart knows this league and knows the teams around it, and has, assistant coach as well. Perfect. Omar as well knows this league, and it was going to happen. The thing is that if you put this is an analogy here, but when you play roulette and you keep playing the same number, eventually that number's going to hit. And they've done this. They've had this ideology for the last couple of years of what they wanted to bring in. They've changed management to try and get it to fit, but they've got it right at this moment in time. It's a tremendous achievement. They are playing obviously Belfast Wednesday to get into a final. It's not going to be an easy game, absolutely not. But for a team where you know it was sacked the manager in September in Sheffield to now coming to the back end of the season, being there or thereabouts in the top four, really good position to push on to the playoffs. Challenge Cup is a very different, looking at it, anyone who is in the final, if be it Belfast or be it Panthers, are probably looking at the way that Devils are playing right now and thinking, okay, what an opportune time. But obviously, this is the thing that Cardiff will just turn it on and absolutely do absolutely well in the final. But, anyone who's coming into that mindset really is that there's such a big game. It's such a big game for them on Wednesday. And they've done immensely well. Attendances has been great. They've been really savvy with getting the ticket prices for certain games down in midweek, getting the Friday games and the Sunday games in to get more packed in. And you've got to, obviously, I didn't want to mention too much about what happened previously, but a lot of new fans have came in within the Nottingham fan base the last couple of years as well. So thing is that the league is better when you've got a Panthers team firing, and it's not, please, any team firing is absolutely brilliant. But it's just the stories that it brings, you're looking at a different caveat of stories, when Steelers are doing well, when Giants are doing well, when Devils are doing well, and when Panthers are doing well. Those are the teams that people expect with the budgets, with the arena, with the history. But when you've got a team like Storm, when you've got Guildford, Blaze, Clan, Stars, Flyers as well, Guildford, everyone, you've just got to look at those teams. Is they're a different kind of story. That's the one that, like a Leicester, terrible at football analogies. Obviously, that season is, it's a very different thing. But people want that, people want to break the mold. I remember a couple of weeks ago, I was at Karina's parents and they had the playoff cups. And it was there, it's, Panthers, Steelers, everyone there. And it said the Newcastle Vipers. I mean, I can't tell you how old that cup probably is. But it was just nice to see. I mean, I know that they're not where they are now and obviously the circumstances around it, of course. But it was just nice to see. I mean, would it be good to get a cup in the next couple of years that says Steelers or Giants, Steelers, Manchester Storm, Guildford Flames, Five Flyers? I mean, admittedly, for the teams that I've not mentioned, no. But for the fan bases that are there, I mean, if you're a Storm fan and saw your team at the playoffs and they actually win a playoff or they win a Challenge Cup trophy, I mean, how much of a good feeling would that be? And how good would it be for the league just to have somebody different and someone there? But then that team that does that, then they push on and it makes it bigger and stronger, the better imports, the better Brits, and et cetera, and so on and so on. Make it big, make it better. But obviously, make sure that teams are in a financial position that they're not going bankrupt. They're not in a position where they're losing money that they have to cease to exist to grow the sport and grow the game. But, how cool would it be if there's like 10 new Brits that just come through the pipeline the next couple of years that replace the names that we're fully aware of that are so historical within British ice hockey. And we're talking about them for the next 10, 15 years. You've got to look at the Pee-wees getting the under-13 trophy. Should have said it earlier, but there were system issues on the live thing. But what a tremendous achievement for them to go over there to win a trophy at that age, going through the 14, the 15, the 16, the 17, the 80s, and then, numbers after that as well. What a tremendous achievement for those kids that them, the parents, all the hardships, all those early morning, late nights to get and win a trophy and come back in that memory. Things like that last a lifetime. I mean, I don't know because obviously I didn't win things at 13, but I can guess they're going to last a lifetime. And absolutely proud of them. And that's the thing is that, these are players that you see the name, whatever, these showcase events that are coming in the next couple of months as well, and seeing these games, England versus Scotland and everything like that, is that these are going to be players that are going to be picked up. They're going to mature, working through the pathways within these teams. That's going to make these teams stronger and grow and get better, especially as time goes on. And that's obviously something to be tremendously proud of. There we go. And then obviously, the thing is, the other question that got thrown at us as well is rec hockey. There's a lot of rec hockey going around as well. Seeing the Vikings as well. They've been on social media quite a lot recently. The Sheffield Steelers ball hockey team went to get a massage a couple of weeks ago, and went past the home of the Sheffield Steelers ball hockey team. Not sure where I was. I can't remember. Geography's shocking. But there's so many rec hockey teams. If you can't skate, this is the thing. You love the sport. You can't skate. You don't really want to play video games. You don't really want to play a sports strategy management games like that. Is ball hockey, different levels, different fitness. You get to wear trainers. You're on a hard surface, but you aren't on skates, and you're probably going to fall flat on your ass as well. But that's a different conversation. It's not on cold ice. But there's a lot of teams out there. One thing that obviously Chasing the Puck really want to do is to go to that lower, different aspects of levels. Really, go to those games that have teams that are just young and developing, to get the social media, do questions with them, do recordings and stuff, so they kind of get a feel of what that looks like when they get to the higher echelons where there's going to be a lot more social media people. But rec hockey needs the love too. Would it be cool for me to go and join a team and start playing with them? Who knows? Fitness, different aspects, but obviously, could you imagine how bad that would turn out anyway? But, a lot of love for the rec teams. There's a lot. It'd be great to get more people out supporting them. If there's obviously teams or anything like that, any teams that are listening to the podcast, send us any links, send us any things that you wanted to tag us in. We'll happily retweet it and share it. Because if it's an opportunity for you guys to develop and grow, we're fully on board to help you guys out with that. That'd be perfect. So looking at it as well, questions as well. Coventry, have the wheels come loose with them? Honestly, some really tough games recently. This is the thing. You brought in a lot of young players with a mixture of experience coming into a league where, for the most part, the way that the season's gone, injuries not ideal, a lot of young players within the building, but they played immensely well. The thing is that the next stage is to obviously get where you need to be, get to those numbers there and contain it. The thing is, teams have certain factors. They'll obviously have a really great start to the season, lose traction around Christmas, and then regroup and reset before the deadline of any recruitment that they bring in for a final push end to the back end of the season. So to have a prolonged over a full season with young players that are, very first time professional contracts, but if they've got a team that have done immensely well and there's still a lot of hockey games to go, where they can keep those players for the next 2-3 years that are going to build and grow over with a head coach and an assistant head coach that are just helping and supporting them, that's not the worst circle that they need to square. Is that, consistency in a league where it's thick and fast games that they are playing, it's tough. And, they've been playing hard opposition. This is the thing, is that once every team, you've seen it with Guildford, with Mind the Gap, you saw it with Storm last season, is that you get to a position where, in the nicest way, some teams look at certain teams and think, okay, this is 2 points. But when they realise that actually this is going to be a tough game, they have to switch on a little bit like that. And that's the thing with Coventry. They had that element of surprise early on and continued to grow with that as the season went on. Now, obviously, performance-wise, it's a testament of how good those players are and that coaching staff, that everyone knows that they need to be on top dollar, top of their game to play a team, because they'll know that they'll hurt them offensively and defensively, and they've got a netminder that will save a lot more than he's conceding. And you've got to be fair on that one as well. Okay, so who get the final playoff spaces is the other question. So we're going to take Fife away from the equation. So battling it is that it's three-way dance between Stars, Clan, and Storm. Okay. So who's going to get that final lost place? Oh, I mean, that's the thing. Terrible to really say it, but I'd hope I'm wrong. But it would be nice to be Storm to get that final place, but I think they won't. I think they will hit ninth. Kind of be interesting to see for them to get there, and Stars as well. But I could be wrong. Anyone who's listening to this and thinking, "Oh, why is he doing that?" is 9 times out of 10 my predictions are wrong. So that's my thoughts. So you probably got a guaranteed playoff place now, and I've jinxed the other two teams. So my apologies for that. So looking at it there, a lot of people I asked with relation to going abroad. What the comparisons between the atmosphere in the UK and Europe, or other parts of Europe and America and Canada, and under Townley was more passionate intensity. The flags. I know Panthers had the flags over the weekend as well. The only reason I asked really is obviously that's something that we want to look at next year is to go to some European games. Long weekend away to see a game, which would be really good because obviously it's not a situation where you look at it and with a level of arrogance, but if you don't really know, TV can only show you one thing, perspective, feeling, but you kind of see how the European fans react and the Posan and everything that they do. Is you want to experience that, and that's some people say, oh, you don't want to see that in UK hockey. You don't want to be like the Europeans and stuff like that. But I love a little bit of atmosphere. I like spine tingling, hearing the anthem be belted out. If you're in Scotland or if you're in the UK, I'd love to hear that. But I love to hear the chants and everything like that, and everyone singing in unison. Might be not the most popular opinion, but always a big fan of hearing 5,000-6,000 people singing Sweet Caroline in unison. So looking at it question wise for there, it's just the last one really. And that was the Wednesday predictions. So obviously we won't post on social media the actual predictions for the game. So exclusive if you're listening on here and on the day. So admittedly, if you're listening to it Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday before 7, obviously it's a prediction from Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday. You can think, oh, what was he on about? He's completely off his head and completely wrong. Depends when you're listening to it. So caveat is absolutely fine. But yeah, so for some reason, someone posted it that, Cardiff and Sheffield this month just play Wednesday, Sheffield Wednesday. But sometimes they play Saturday. It is a joke from Ted Lasso, if you've not seen Ted Lasso. But anyway, I thought it was funny. But no, looking at it, Cardiff are going to be feeling it. You got to completely understand, really top tier performance by Belfast over the weekend. People were like, oh, is it going to be a split weekend? Or this is, or is this going to be the one that Giants slip up and lose to a team like this? And comprehensively, Belfast did everything they needed to do Friday, Saturday. Devils, Pete Russell's conversation, hearing the fans not being happy about the level of performances as well. And as many fans that made the trip and travelled over to Belfast to see a scoreline like that being shut out as well and conceding 6. A couple of days of training, get back to Cardiff from Belfast. What a game to come back to. The fans have been great for the Devils in the Challenge Cup semi-final. And every game, Sheffield have just seemed to have struggled in Cardiff this season. Not the greatest game against Guildford going on pen shots, but it's a lottery soon to get to pen shots. But Adam was absolutely brilliant in those 2 saves that he did. Baumas being taken out of the equation with taking a penalty 2 seconds before the end of overtime, so he couldn't take a penalty shot. Something that new that we learned. I thought it would be because you've got to obviously have some kind of penalisation because it'd just be an absolute field day. Do whatever you want in the last 3-4 seconds, you can still take a penalty shot. But yeah, this is 2 really good teams. Don't turn away from what Devils have done in the last couple of games. They are our reigning and defending Conti Cup champions, trade champions. But, the injuries that are there, the players that they've got in the building, they can take 2 points. admittedly, from a title race point of view, would it be good to Sheffield to get the win, just to keep it going a little bit longer? Because obviously, a lot of people have said once this game goes ahead, if Sheffield lose to Devils, it's pretty much 1.5 hands on the trophy for the Belfast Giants. It's going to be a really tough game, if I'm honest. But I think just Steelers are just going to edge it. It's not going to be 5-6-0 or anything like that. It's going to be a close, contested game. Both teams are going to take the lead, and then it's going to drop off and anything like that. But I just feel like Steelers, if they turn up before the third period, because they haven't in the last couple of games, that's obviously a tough one that they need to manage and understand. But I just feel like with the injuries and anything, circumstances like that. But if you're a Devils fan, you're listening to this, and they win, it's reverse psychology. And, if it's Steelers win, it's just, either way, I've got an excuse for anything, depending on what the scoreline ended up to be. So it's absolutely fine. And then last but not least, we're going to end it on Belfast versus Panthers. Panthers versus Belfast. So obviously, hopefully there's a few Giants fans making the trip up. I know obviously, Neil, I hope you don't mind me saying that, you were saying obviously the prices for flights were, when we spoke at the Sheffield game, were not the cheapest in the world, given the circumstance of a Wednesday night. And that's, it's a sad thing. I really hope that people can make the trip, the ferry or speedboat or, jet skis or whatever version that you guys can do. Because I'd love to see a full away block for Giants. And that's what it needs to be, Giants versus Panthers. What a semi-final that's going to be is that, Giants can score, they can defend, they can play hard, they can do also those things, but so can Panthers. And, the first goal is absolutely vital in a game like that, because a momentum shift in Panthers' favour early on into that game, get that goal early on, just opens up a whole world of hurt, really. Because, if Belfast score, then, very early on, it's kind of like it takes the tie out. It's that, it's such a bigger hurdle to take out the equation. But if Panthers score first, what a hell of a game we're going to have. Because, everything's going to go. Every, penalty that goes their way, every penalty that goes against them, they're just going to be picking up every little single thing, caveat that happens in that game. And, as the time wears on, it's game management. Who's one of the most perfect people to have with game management than Adam Keefe? He's been there, he's done that, he's got the T-shirt. He knows what is needed to get a team into the final. And, of course, if they win, they get a final at the SSE Arena. And what a place to have a final, and what a team to be facing against the Devils if they do make it. But for me, Panthers aren't out of it yet. And if they score first, it's going to ask a lot of questions, really, of circumstances, of how that's going to do and how that's going to be. But you want a prediction? Yeah, so... Panthers. Yeah, okay. Sorry to my Belfast friends, but I'm going to say that it's going to be Panthers. So it'll be a Panthers-Devils final in Cardiff. Not saying that because it's a cheaper trip for me to travel over to Cardiff than it is to Belfast. That is not any of the reason of this thinking. But it's going to be a hell of a game. If you haven't got a ticket, buy a ticket. If you fancy buying a stream, buy a stream. Probably not going to be in Blind Rabbit if you're in Nottingham, but, Belfast fans, I don't know if they're putting on a pub or anything close by, if they've got a viewing room in the SSE Arena for people who can't travel or anything like that. But get your friends over, get a takeaway, grab a beer, wine, non-alcoholic beverage, and sit back and relax. And if you're a neutral that don't really care about it, or you just want to boo one certain team, watch the game. It's going to be great. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. Obviously, big apologies. The system issues before the start of the live show for the first 2 minutes and 42 seconds. Timed it because obviously then I can amend it and edit it on other social media channels and stuff like that. So I'd appreciate anyone who flagged it and let me know, and stayed with us and stuck with us. It's greatly appreciated. As always, if you're not following us on Instagram, why not? If you're not following us on Facebook, why not? Because we are nearly, we're only 6,000 people away from hitting 100,000. So the target of hitting 100,000 by end of the season is in sight. We can almost do it. So if you're not following us on Facebook, follow us on Facebook. Twitter, X, what a great weekend, everyone that were there. We had a laugh, we had a fun, we got nearly full house on a bingo card. We were just so close. Who thought we would get unstuck with Fife win a game and miss out on player or coach meltdown? And that's the one that got us unstuck on the bingo card. Big thanks to everyone who helped us with the bingo card and tagged us and spoke to us and everything. So that's greatly appreciated. And if not, follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter. Spotify, it's been great. We've had some really good episodes, some really good feedback, and some really good reviews. If you're not following us and you've not given us a 5-star review, maybe now is the time. Who knows? And then also one thing as well is we are discussing with people about the jackets and the t-shirt. Of course, I'm wearing my very fashionable Chasing the Butt t-shirt at this moment in time. Watch this space. I want to see how many numbers that people want a t-shirt, and we might be able to put something on social media where we'll order them. And then obviously anything money that comes our way, we'll look at charities that we can help and support, within the hockey community. That means a lot to us, to help them out, of course, with any people that make any purchases, because obviously it's not about any money for me or anything like that, or chasing the puck. It's more of a case of supporting where we can support, and if that's something we can do, we would. But thank you everyone for the last couple of weeks' support. Follow us on social media. If you see me at a game, come and say hi. Come and take a selfie. Karina loves it when people ask to take a selfie with me. But whatever games you go to this weekend, share your photos, share your stories, and I'll be right back here on Monday with you, hopefully with the system working to full capacity, and we can have a good laugh and talk about everything that's going ahead. So have fun, enjoy, and we'll see you all next week.